Welcome back to LarryB YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to learn how to make this multiple keyhole neckline. It's a very simple tutorial and beginner friendly. This is something you like to learn. Kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So the main focus of this tutorial is going to be on the multiple keyhole that we have on the neckline area. I have drafted my basic bodice on my fabric, and then I also cut out a facing for turning it. So if you don't want to use a facing, you can also use bias, but I prefer to use facing for turning mine. So to make this easier for us, I also drafted a small pattern. You can see it's exactly the same for the multiple keyhole neckline. This is going to make it bolder and even easier to work with. So I'm going to keep the fabric first, and then we'll work on the paper. Okay, so now the first thing is to map out the area that the keyhole is going to be. The neck measurement that I used for this is 3 inches by 3 inches, as you can see. So now I want the length of the circles that I'm creating to be around 3 inches as well. So I can as well mark that here. Okay, so from here you can mark 3 inches just like I did. So the 3 inches that I have marked there, I'm going to mark it all around from the neckline so that I can have something uniform. You can use 4 inches, you can use 4.5, you can use 3.5. It's totally up to you and how big you want this to be. So you can see that I'm trying to have the same thing all around. So once I mark that now, I'm going to join them together like this. You can use your free hand, or you can use a cuff to do that as well. Whichever one you want to work with is fine. Okay, so now the next thing now is to create the keyholes. So depending on what you want to do, you can do 2 keyholes, you can do 3. This is a multiple keyhole, so I believe you should start from 3 or 4. So for me, I'm going to be working with 3. So the first thing I will do is to create like a template for my keyhole. Remember the length that we're working with for this keyhole is 3. So you can see that I put this on fold. So I'm going to mark out the 3 inches that is the length. So you can see that. So after that, now you decide on how wide you want the keyhole to be. You can do 1 inch, you can do 2 inches, 1.5 inches. It shouldn't be too wide as well, but it's totally up to you and what you want. So let's say we're doing 1 inch. So I can make it at the midpoint here, and then I'm marking 1 inch. 1 inch means by the time you open it out, you're going to have 1.5 2 inches. Remember it's on full, so it's going to be 2 inches. So now you're going to draw your shape. It can be an oval shape, it can be a circle shape, whatever it is that you want to do. Just draw out the shape that you're going for. You can use your free hand like I am doing, or you use a curve. So this is going to serve as a template. What this is going to do is that it's going to make sure that the circle that you have is going to be the same all through. You're going to have a uniform circle since we are using the same template to cut out everything. So now I'm cutting out my template, okay, which is like an oval shape. I don't think okay, you can see it's not circle, it's like an oval shape. Like I said I'm doing 3, so I'll just place it at the center point here and draw the first design. So after placing like this, I'm going to grab my marker and mark out the first design. So you can see that this is half. I'm going to use my tracing wheel to draw the remaining half, although I think it has even, the marker has already stated on the other side. So let's just complete it. So we have the first one. Now I said I want 3. It means I'll have 1 in the middle and 1 on each side. So for the one on the side, you're going to have to open up your template to get that. So now I want it to be as close as possible to the shoulder area, but it shouldn't be too close. Remember, you're still going to turn the shoulder. If you want it to be close to the first one, is also fine, but for me, I just want it close to the the shoulder. So here, once you have what you desire, what you want it to look like, you're going to go ahead and then mark around the template as well. So you do it for the two sides. You can use a tracing rule so that it will be on the exact same spot that the first one is. So I'm just trying to make it bolder. So let's see if we have it on the other side, and we do. So we don't need a tracing rule for this. All I just need to do is to use my marker to trace it out like this. But if yours is not showing, this is showing because the marker is still very new, so it has a lot of ink. If yours is not showing, then you just use your tracing rule to trace it out. Then you turn to the other side and see what you have. So you can see what I have there now. I have 3 keyholes. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut this out. So I'm just tracing out the width. So I'll grab my scissors now and then cut out this shape that I already have. So now I'm cutting this out, and this is what I have. It's very important. It's going to make your work a lot easier. So now that you have this, I'm going to be placing my main fabric, and then I'll place my lining on top of it as well. Right side facing right side. Make sure that they are matching each other, and you can see that the area that the keyhole is going to be, I added it facing to it just to strengthen that area. So once you have them on the same point, you're going to bring in your template, and then you're going to place it as well. So I'm going to pin these 3 together. This template is very bold, as you can see, so it's going to make your sewing easier. You will see what you're doing clearly and easily. Okay, that is why we have this template there as a guide. Make sure that everything aligns very well before you pin. That's what I'm trying to do here. So once they align, you pin the 3 together, and then we'll take it to the sewing machine now, and we'll start to sew. Okay, just for it to stay in place. We are pinning the main fabric together with the facing and the template that we have. So after pinning them together, now I'll take it to the sewing machine and then just sew on these marks that I already created. So I've gone ahead to sew it, as you can see. Just sew on the shape that I already have. This is what it looks like on the wrong side. So now you're going to bring in you can tear the paper if you want, or you just cut it together and then tear the paper later. So I'm going to cut it open so that we can turn it out. And if you notice, this has a cold shoulder sleeve. The open part of the closed shoulder, that's the shoulder area downwards. I want it to have a clean finish as well. So I went ahead to sew that part up to where the sleeve is going to join it, so that by the time I turn it out as well, it's going to be clean on that side. So if you would like a tutorial on the cold shoulder sleeve as well, let me know in the comment section, and then I'm going to film a tutorial on it. So now what we're going to do now is to open up this pattern that we have from this upper part, from the tiny upper part that we have there. So I'm going to try to cut around it, then after cutting around it, I'll try to remove the paper and then notch it as close as possible. Remember, they are all curves, so I'm going to notch it so that it can relax well for me to turn. So what I'm doing now is just to cut out this shape so that I can open up, and you're cutting from the tip on the neckline area. So after cutting it out now, I'm going to try to remove the pattern. It has already done its job, so I don't need it again. So I'm going to remove the paper all around it. You remove this carefully. You don't want to rip your seams apart. So you remove all the papers that are there. And then after that, like I said, I'm going to notch into the seams, but don't cut your seam. So you can see I'm going to notch it carefully, but make sure you don't cut into your seams. So that is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to pause this so that we don't have the video too lengthy. Okay, so I forgot to mention that you need to sew the neckline area as well. Okay, you need to sew your neckline as well because we want everything to be neatly finished. So you're going to go ahead and sew your neckline as well, and then you notch it before you turn out everything. So once you are done with that, you can go ahead and flip and turn it out, but make sure you notch every part that is necessary because, like I said, they are all curves, so you don't want it to be packing at any area. And then notching it will also make it easier for you to turn out. So just go ahead and notch it, but don't forget to sew your neckline area. After the keyhole, you sew the neckline as well, so that you can have your neckline as neat as possible. So after that, you go ahead and start flipping it out, and then you bring out all the necessary corners that you need to bring out. I'm going to flip this now and bring it back to show us what we have. When you get to the shoulder area, it's going to be a bit tiny because of this space, so you just bring it out as easily as you can. You don't have to rush it, just be bringing it out bit by bit. See, you are sure that everything is out. Okay, so you can see now that I have turned it out, and the neckline as well as that armhole area is looking neat. So now we're going to go ahead and iron it. Okay, so when you are done ironing it, this is what you have. You see them coming together like this. So it has to be, you have to sew on the exact point you need to sew, and don't notch too much. If not, your neckline will not come together. If you look at this middle part, when I was sewing it, this fabric frills a lot, as you can see. So at this middle part, the fabric started coming off, so I had to sew it on another point. You can see that it is no longer meeting each other, and you cannot force it, because if you force it, it will make your neckline small. So I just thought to show us that it's very important. You can use interfacing on both your lining and your main fabric if you have this type of fabric that is just coming off anyhow like this. The other part that did not come off, you can see that they are still exactly the same, but this part started coming off, so I had to go and sew it on another point. That's why I have it this opened like this. So you have to be mindful of that. So what I'm going to do to bridge this gap is just to put a bead here. Okay, I'm going to put a bead because if I force it like this, it will change the measurement that I have on my neckline, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to put a bead there, but please be mindful of that when you're doing yours. So now to sew this neckline together, what you're going to do is to pass your needle and thread like this, and then you start from one end to the other. You can sew it outwards like this, but I prefer to sew it from inside, so that what I'm doing is not going to show. So now you are going to be passing your needle from inside to the tip, which is here, to the tip where you want to sew it. Okay, so once you pass it, assuming I don't have a space, I'll just pass it on the other side as well. But because of that space, I'm going to put the bead that I want to put inside. Make sure that your needle can pass through your bead. So once you put your bead there, I'm going to place this to the other side and bring it out from inside again. So sewing it like this is going to make it as clean as possible. Okay, so this is what you're going to have. You can see now that the neckline is joined together. So you pass it around multiple times to make sure that it is holding it well before you tie it and cut off the leftover. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to pass it around it again just to be sure that I have what I'm supposed to have. Then I'm going to tie it and then cut it off. So you have to be careful when you are doing this. You don't want your needle or your bead to break. Okay, so that part is done. So now we'll move to the next one. Just like I did for this, I'm going to be going from inside like this. Okay, because I don't want it to show. Then because you are not putting beads here, it's what we want it to be. So I'll just pass it to the next one and then bring it out from inside again. This way your joining is not going to show. You can see it's going to close up completely and give you something as neat as possible. So it's not going to show that you are sewing it with your needle and thread. So again, I'm passing it again. So you can pass it as much as you want, just to make sure that you have secured it properly. Okay, so once you are done passing it over and over again, you go ahead and tie it neatly. So you make sure that nothing is sparking when you are doing this. Okay, you don't want anything to pack. So as you are sewing it, you try to stretch it out. Okay, so you can see what we have there. And also you should use a matching color of thread. So now we are done with this. The last one is this. So for this now, I'll just go ahead and knot it at one point, and then I'm going to do the last one. So when you are done doing this, the next thing you need to do is just to sew your front and back together, and you're done. So I'm just trying to tie it up at that point. Okay, make sure it is as tight as possible. You can see now that I've gone ahead to tack it, and you can see that it is almost not noticeable. Okay, so the next thing now is to sew the front and back together, and then you go ahead and embellish your keyhole area. So this is what it looks like on the mannequin. I just decided to add a little bit of embellishment around the keyhole. So I tucked in my bust dart and my waist dart. Just make sure to sew yours. I did that because it's a tutorial. The major focus is on the keyhole part, and you can see how beautiful it is looking. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.